professor from the University of Ilorin has called on the federal, state and local government to integrate indigenous and minority languages into formal and informal education systems to ensure their survival and continued use. Professor Bolanle Arokoyo made the call while delivering the 282nd inaugural lecture of the Department of Logistics and Nigerian Languages, Faculty of Arts, University of Ilorin, themed "From the Mouths of Babes to the Wisdom of Elders, a Voyage of Language of Exploration," held at the auditorium of the institution in Ilorin, Kwara State. Professor Arokoyo echoed that the lack of engagement of students in local languages in the educational institutions has affected the standard of education in the country.
Nigeria's national language policy and UNESCO statement on indigenous language emphasize the importance of linguistic diversity in education, identity formation, and national development. Despite the fact that the policy in Nigeria is well articulated, weak enforcement and societal preferences for English hinder its effectiveness. The framework of UNESCO provides a global perspective that underlines the urgency of language preservation, urging nations to take decisive steps towards integrating indigenous languages into education and public life. This fact clearly underscores the importance of indigenous languages in education. While the connection between language and the United Nations Human Development Index, HDI, is not straightforward.
She reiterated that students who are taught using their indigenous languages do better in terms of understanding and comprehension of the lessons taught. The professor then called for determination and more commitment to ensure indigenous language strives. She also urged universities and research institutions, government agencies, and international organizations to prioritize documenting endangered languages to preserve their grammatical structures, vocabulary, cultural narratives through increased fundings.
The problem of development in Nigeria is compounded by high illiteracy, low school enrollment, low educational achievement, and the threat to local languages and cultures due to globalization and the spread of English language to the traditional domains of indigenous languages. Most people who are classified as illiterates are really not. They just do not understand or speak English language or speak the English language well. Their performance will be better if they were taught in their mother tongue. The English language is definitely not a measure of intelligence. With the multilingual nature of Nigeria, with about 500 languages, it is difficult to choose an indigenous language as the official language. Ethnic and regional identities tied to language will lead to political tensions, making national consensus difficult. Nigeria's linguistic diversity reflects the fragmentation reported in the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. This linguistic fragmentation symbolizes the rich culture of Nigeria and the challenges of communication. Although adopting a single indigenous language may not be possible, strategic policies can help preserve linguistic heritage, enhance national unity, and promote development. The geopolitical zones and states that speak the same language can adopt their indigenous languages as the medium of communication and teaching. Linguists should be at the forefront of creating tools for translation and data for large language models, LLMs.
They then advised government, technology companies, and cultural organizations and the media to adopt digital tools to revitalize and promote endangered languages. She appealed to the policymakers to recognize linguistics rights of indigenous language speakers and enforce policies that protect and promote language diversity. The professor enjoined linguists to collaborate with professionals in technology, anthropology, education, and policymakers to enhance the effectiveness of language preservation and revitalization efforts.
Governments and policymakers should recognize the linguistic rights of indigenous language speakers and enforce policies that protect and promote language diversity. Encourage interdisciplinary collaboration in linguistic research, integrates business and entrepreneurial training into linguistic programs. Universities and training institutions should incorporate business, digital marketing, and entrepreneurship courses into linguistic programs to equip the 21st century linguists with the skills needed to start language-based businesses such as translation, language teaching, consulting, and AI development. Linguistics students should be exposed to industry experience through the introduction of the Student Industrial Work Experience Scheme. Adequate implementation of CCMA's minimum academic standards. Governments, institutions, and organizations should ensure that the staff, facilities, and equipment, library and office space needed to train the 21st century linguists as stipulated in the CCMAs are provided.
Earlier in his remarks, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ilorin, Professor Wahab Olasupo Egbewoli, who was ably represented by Professor Adigboyega Adisa Fawoli, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Management Services, University of Ilorin, said the inaugural lecturer has worked tirelessly to attain the height of her career and therefore urged other lecturers and scholars to emulate her.
The lecture today is titled From the Mouths of Babes to the Wisdom of Elders, a Voyage of Language Exploration.